Tyranny, John. Would we know it if we saw it? I think we would. I think it is here. Other than the tyranny, how are you doing?
I think I'm doing all right, until they smash the door in
Is
and
that
then
happening?
apologize and say, well, we read a story a couple of weeks ago about how the FBI crashed into some hotel room and it turned out it was the wrong guy. It was like an airline pilot, and they were
Wow.
doing a training thing and they kicked the wrong door in with the guns drawn and all that.
The FBI is a
So
disaster, right?
I didn't catch that. What was that?
FBI is a disaster. That's crazy. I mean, you start kicking in doors with guns, you better be pretty darn sure. That's like accidentally doing brain surgery on somebody. You got to be pretty careful.
Yeah. And that was the testimony that some people got to hear this week. Wasn't really covered, rather, it wasn't covered broadly in the news in America. But
No.
this week, a number of whistleblowers came forward, FBI agents, FBI special agents, what have you, and came forward. And one of them came forward and said, we're using these SWAT tactics when it's not really necessary and it's dangerous. And he is a SWAT officer. And so tonight, when we go to the patron-only portion of the show, when we go to Patreon for Crowdsource the Truth and Subscribestar for Crowdsource the Truth and Substack for Crowdsource the Truth and Rumble for Crowdsource the Truth.
Odyssey.
And Odyssey for Crowdsource the Truth. Don't forget Odyssey.
And Subscribestar.com and Patreon.com/I am John Cullen. Thank you for that plug, John.
Indeed. So when the patrons, who are the people who really make this work possible, and I'm incredibly grateful to you guys, so thank you. And if you haven't become a patron yet, please consider it. It kind of makes this work your work. It's like you're funding this research. So when we go to that part of the show, we're going to look at some of the testimony from these FBI agents in front of Congress under oath, right? And hear what are they saying about the FBI, and how consistent is this with the reporting that you and I have been doing for the last 5.5 years? Is it consistent, or is it not? And we're going to take a very close look at that tonight.
Yeah, it was an upsetting hearing to watch because, it's now become a trend. We've got these Democrats. Obviously, we can sit here and make fun of them, but to speak about it seriously, I think there was a real breakdown going on because, you see, if people haven't yet watched it, I encourage them to watch even just for a little while to observe this. But when it opened, most of the Democrats weren't even there. And the Republicans are, in their seats, paying attention to what's being said. They're obviously taking this seriously. And it's fine for the Democrats to agree with substantial portions of whatever it is they're trying to convey. But to take it as unseriously as they are and to constantly be mocking the proceeding and saying we shouldn't even be doing this, we should be talking about January 6th and we should be talking about Donald Trump. When you've got these three guys sitting there, one of them, I think his name was, what was his name? O'Grady? What is this guy's name?
O'Boyle?
Something like yes. He spoke about how he's been in multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Then he became a cop. Then he became an FBI agent. Frankly, this strikes me as the type of person that you would want doing that kind of work. And the FBI, they tricked him. They moved him across the country, wouldn't give him access to the house that they had, prepared for him or whatever, that had all of his stuff in it. And he was instantly homeless with 4 small children and his wife. The guy, this man who looks like he could be in the World Wrestling Federation and win, was brought to tears in this hearing. And that horrible, wretched woman, Stacey Plaskett, she mocked them. She's evil. I'm not just saying that because I think she's a bitch. She's evil.
Well, that's why we're gonna watch it together with our patrons, and let our patrons form their own opinions. You have yours, I have mine, and again, when you have a number of people from inside the FBI coming forward to Congress to say, these are the problems we're seeing firsthand, it's important to listen. And as you said, the fact that it seems like half of the dais here seems to think that this is a charade, And I can't imagine, why would you think that? Why
Do you know,
wouldn't you
did
want
you
to just hear
notice
what
this
they have to
part,
say?
John? There was a cool thing that we learned yesterday, or at least that I did. Maybe other people knew it already. It's a bit of congressional poker playing. Like, it seemed to me, a lot of the Democrats just phoned it in. They weren't even there, and they kept kind of, relinquishing their time to Dan Goldman, I guess because he's a lawyer and he used to be a prosecutor and he was kind of trying to lawyer it up. The first thing I noticed was when he dove into the Durham report to try to tell Mr. O'Boyle or to try to compel him to agree with his statement. You know how they like to lay out a stupid question and then say, "Isn't that right, Mr. O'Boyle?" So that they can kind of put words into his mouth.
Yeah.
So Goldman said, "Hey, there's this thing on page 270 something that says, well, the FBI could have opened a preliminary investigation." And he said, "Isn't it right, Mr. O'Boyle, that these preliminary investigations just become regular investigations all the time?" And O'Boyle said, "No, sometimes they get shut down." It was amazing. He obviously had skills at interrogating and being interrogated. He shut those idiots down. It was brilliant. I hope this guy gets a TV show or something amazing coming out of this.
And yet the coverage of it has been nominal, right? So in fact, today we record these shows on Fridays. So looking at today is Friday, May the 19th, 2023. And on Drudge Report, there's nothing about this. Nothing
Amazing.
about FBI whistleblower testimony. It's not there. If you go to the CNN.com homepage, I don't think they're covering it. And we do have a clip that we're going to listen to from CNN. And I want you to hear CNN's take on it, because again, CNN kind of mocks the fact that there's a hearing in the first place. So, and this notion of discrediting these guys who are FBI agents who are coming forward
Veterans.
is wild stuff. So that's why it's important that we listen to this. And we're going to do that with our patrons. And we've got a lot of clips. So I want to get to all those clips with our patrons, and I've got about 20 slides in the deck that I want to go through in 10 minutes. So we're going to do 30 seconds a slide. We can't really take a whole lot of tangents tonight because there's so much content this week, because we had the Durham report, we had these FBI whistleblowers.
But I love
there's
tangents.
so much. I know you do. I know you do. So I want you to try and hold it in. We'll go on as many as we can with our patrons, but let's rock through this deck if we can. And let me show everybody what's out there. The first thing we have to cover, of course, I'm on Twitter. This is fabulous, and I do think Dan Bilzerian is pissed off.
Jealous.
I parked it next to Nick. I parked it right next to his thing out in Vegas, and ours is bigger. So, all right. So I'm over 13,000, and love this Gulfstream G650. Thank you to the patrons who've made that possible. I really love you guys. It's amazing. $5 a month times what? 30, 40 people. Next thing you know, you're in a Gulfstream. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right. So this is a public. This is an important public service announcement. This is real serious. For those of you guys who are in the YouTube censor room with your hand over the red button, calm down. This is from the CDC. This is legit. Janssen. This is from the CDC, and there's the URL. So cdc.gov/vaccines. This is a public service announcement. Johnson & Johnson, Janssen, who I used to work with, by the way, they were a client of mine back in the day. They have, well, why don't you read it? You read the first sentence and I'll...
Janssen COVID-19 vaccine is no longer available in the U.S. All remaining U.S. government stock of Janssen COVID-19 vaccine expired May 7th, 2023. So good luck to all you people who got it on the 6th. Dispose of any remaining Janssen COVID-19 vaccine in accordance with local, state, and federal regulations. People ages 18 and older who received one dose of Janssen COVID-19 vaccine should be considered to have received a single dose Janssen primary series. People ages 18 and older who received one or two Janssen COVID-19 vaccine doses are recommended to receive one bivalent mRNA dose. Wow. I've got something to say, a personal anecdote about the Janssen vaccine, but I don't want to say it here.
Yeah, can we hold it? Yeah.
We'll discuss it in the...
We'll put it on the patron shelf for the patron discussion.
Remind me about that.
All right, so
a
we'll
big
come
deal.
back to this. So this is, yes, the first slide in the deck. So for those of you out there who were considering getting another J&J shot, another Janssen shot, it's off the market in the United States. And as Jason pointed out, if you got it, what was it, May the 6th, it was perfectly fine.
Yeah, one day it just exploded.
Stop being a wuss. It was perfectly fine on May the 6th. Stop getting all worked up.
How
May
do
the
they calculate
7th,
that?
get it off the shelf and dispose of it properly. But May the 6th, fresh as a daisy.
Right.
Right. And that's coming from Immuno. Right. So you can trust me. All right. Let's go to the next slide.
Definitely.
World's most vaccinated man. All right. What we're also going to be looking at tonight when we go into the patron only portion of the show is something that was really remarkable. And again, when you hear the testimony from Agent O'Boyle, forgive me if I'm screwing up his name, but when you hear his testimony and what he talks about how the FBI goes after people who blow the whistle, and if you point out wrongdoing, that's not tolerated in the organization. And he explains this under oath. And of course, I'm paraphrasing. That's why we're going to play it for you guys so you can hear it. But it makes you understand for a moment, if you will, why I'm incognito. Yeah. Why is this guy in the hat and glasses? Why is he using a nom de plume? Doesn't it cost him credibility? Yes, it does. As a result of the getup, I'm not taken as seriously as I would be if I was in a suit and tie, or maybe even a bow tie like those fairies. I mean, those
my first
those
microphone.
guys those guys who wear bow ties. I didn't mean to call them fairies. That's a different thing. Fairies are different, right? Fairies are different. What are fairies?
Well, every time
Peter Pan, right?
Happens,
that's
a fairy gets the wings.
Thing. Yeah, what fairies and bow ties have nothing. Yeah, they have nothing to do with each other.
That gets
all right.
The wings?
So let's go back. All right, so back to the Federalist Papers. Why is this important? Back when we did the Constitution, there was only so much we can write down. And and you got to remember, we're just coming out of this war with England, and the British Navy at the time was, what do the kids say? Dope, right? The British Navy was it. Yeah, it was it. I mean, the British Navy was the most powerful military force.
Did the U.S. even have boats?
I think we had a canoe from Pocahontas or something. I mean, you know, Sacagawea taught us how to row a canoe. I don't think we had much, no. I mean, you know, George Washington's running around on a horse and had to get a guy to row him across the Delaware. So there's our Navy, right? We had a rowboat, okay? So that's what we had. We were camping.
That's what I'm thinking.
And they send the British Navy over because we wouldn't pay our taxes. That's basically the story in a nutshell. And 5 years later, they're trying to explain to people, look, we can't write the whole story in the Constitution. So what happens is a bunch of key people publish something called the Federalist Papers. And one of these Federalist Papers we're going to look at tonight was published by Publius. Now, Publius is a nom de plume.
They're still around.
And Publius, well, I don't know. No, Publius is not still around.
The publishing company took the name of the guy. What is Publius?
Yeah. So Publius is the nom de plume of James Madison.
Aha.
So
that's
James
why the
Madison
publishing company took it.
Is writing in the Federalist Papers, and a number of these guys are writing different portions, but Publius is James Madison, we now know. And so when he publishes this, he's using a nom de plume. He's doing what I'm doing, because what he's saying at the time is so controversial.
Yeah,
it would impact his reputation, his credibility, his political position, and all that. So by publishing under the nom de plume, he's able to be honest about how he sees this, and yet not have his honest feelings necessarily smear, quote unquote, the reputation of James Madison. All right, so this is 250 years ago, James Madison pulling a John Cullen, using a nom de plume to articulate some heavy duty stuff here.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a look at this. Why did James Madison not put his name on this? Why did he use a nom de plume? What is it that he's saying here that is this controversial? And what it's about is an explanation of the Second Amendment.
Ah.
So what we're going to look at is why did they put the Second Amendment in the Constitution? Is it really about an organized militia? Or is it about
hunting?
something else?
Yeah.
All right. And so when you read the writings of Publius, which I'm going to break down, I translated this into contemporary English instead of this Queen's English stuff that you can't even make sense of it. So, thou dothest and all that. Yeah, it sounds like you're reading Shakespeare. So I turned this into English, and we're going to read the English version of this with our patrons and kind of break it down, because basically James Madison explains the Second Amendment in the Federalist Papers. And that's what we're going to take a look at, because it's basically, I don't know. And essentially, to kind of give you guys the bottom line up front, what he's explaining is tyranny. And what he's saying is, you can't give up your weapons, because the next thing you know, the British Navy's coming over here. What are we going to do if we gave up our weapons? You can't give up your weapons because you can't trust the government to not lose its mind and go cuckoo with power. Well, gee whiz, what would that look like? What would that look like? So wait a second. With the British, we didn't pay our taxes, and so they sent the British Navy over. Right now, the IRS is hiring 87,000 armed agents, and I want to know, how many kills do you get before there's discipline? Do you get two before they talk to you? Like if you're armed, they're expecting some engagement, right? So how many engagements are you entitled to before there's disciplinary action? At least one, right? I mean, you're allowed to at least get one, right? I hope so. All right.
Isn't it also true that some Japanese general said we shouldn't invade the United States because every citizen is armed?
I don't know if they said that. Did they say that lately? Or are you sure they said the United States, or was it Texas?
This was
so we shouldn't invade Texas. Oh, I don't know. It's possible. It's a and I think they gave weapons out in Ukraine. I mean, that could be another mock story that's not.
Well, that's
true,
where the left wants guns. If you're going to send them to Ukraine and believe whatever they're telling you on the news about what's going on in Ukraine, then guns are fine. If you want them to defend yourself from people who are trying to kill you, then
you know what it's like? It's like last week we were looking at that bug assault weapon.
Yeah,
and we're saying
I was thinking about that yesterday.
Women are against hunting until it's a housefly. And if it's a housefly, they're all for hunting. Blow its head off, right? So they're all for that. And it's kind of the same thing with real guns. It's like real guns are really bad unless we're sending them to Ukraine and we get to shoot Russians, in which case they're, we got to do that. It's the right thing to do. A couple more slides before we have to go to our patron-only portion of the show. Let me show everybody a little bit more. So this is sort of my translation of the Federalist Papers, where I break it down into modern-day English, and we're going to take a look at, what was James Madison saying, and what does that mean? And so you and I will go back and forth on this as we get to our patron-only portion of the show. But this is Federalist Paper number 46, written by James Madison using a nom de plume. I don't know if he had the hat. I'm sure we didn't have the.
But they had those
Ray-Bans.
stinky white wigs.
We didn't have aviators in 250 years ago. Or James Madison would have looked pretty badass in the aviators. All right, let's go to the next slide. Can you imagine with the white hair and the aviators? That's a look. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the Twitter pool, they're still deleting my videos. Still pulling. It's like I make a post and I attach a video. It's still, this is last week, gone. They're pulling the videos off. I don't know, Elon, what the hell's going on over there, but that's not what I think you had in mind. Let's continue. A couple more slides. I want bang, bang, bang. Let's see if I can make out what that is.
This is
yeah. So I keep getting all these DMs from these bots
fake
telling
Chinese
me, "Hi, I just got here." Yeah. So in other words, you guys, you figured out that the video that I posted is bad, and you took that off, but you can't figure out that this is spam. I got to tell you that's spam.
This comes weird. There's a lot of spam coming up
constantly.
It's like Chinese girls who are looking like hookers,
and it's coming into my DM thing. and it's constant, and yet you're pulling my stuff down. You can't figure out that this
that's
is
a good
spam.
point.
I got to
There is
tell you that.
something wrong with Twitter, John. There is.
Yeah, I'm pointing this out. I shouldn't have to tell you guys that that's spam, and you should have to think twice before pulling my videos out of my posts. So let's keep going. These are just little, irritants. Some great numbers from the New York Post this past week. COVID pandemic killed more than 80,000 in New York. And I just wanted to point out why that's important before we go to patron only. Because this is Andrew Cuomo right now. This is Emmy Award winning and Emmy Award retracting Andrew Cuomo. Not
Emmy Award losing governor.
They reclaimed the award. They said, no. If you did those things they said you did, we don't want you to have our fancy trophy, so give it back. But he did a book deal, like a $5 million book deal off of the back of that. And he's got 80,000 dead, and turns this over to Kathy Hochul, who's a real breath of fresh air. I mean, she's a real change, a lot of new thoughts, new leadership, new direction. Do you understand that 80,000 people dead in New York is more than Pakistan? Pakistan
more
was
than
over
died in Pakistan.
220 million people, right? In Pakistan and Bangladesh, 168 million people in Bangladesh. If you take the COVID deaths in Pakistan, the COVID deaths in Bangladesh, and combine them, New York has more dead.
That's
Are you ready for this? Let me put a cherry on top of the sundae. Show everybody the next page. So the cherry on top of the sundae is not only does New York have more dead than Pakistan and Bangladesh combined, New York has more dead than Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nigeria.
Wow.
With another 220 million people. So Pakistan and Nigeria both have over 200 million people. Bangladesh, 168 million people. All three countries don't have as many dead as Kathy Hochul and Andrew Cuomo. To me, if that doesn't get a district attorney or an attorney general or an inspector general for department, I mean, how does this not cause a red flag to hit the field? You say, whoa. New York has more dead than Nigeria plus Pakistan plus Bangladesh. Really? Yes, look at the data. It's right in front of you. Here it is. What does it say? Pakistan's 30,000. Bangladesh is 30,000. Nigeria doesn't even have 5,000.
Yeah.
And so I'm pinning this on Andrew Cuomo. I don't understand why Letitia James, it's like, Letitia, you want to get famous? I'll make you famous. Put me in front of that grand jury. We'll be done in 5 minutes. We'll be done in 5 minutes. How's this not criminal negligence, Jason? How's this not criminal negligence?
Let me ask you something. Somebody put this out. We need to check this on Truth Social, but is this true? Did Trump praise? Says when the Ron DeSanctimonious facts come out, you'll see that he is better than most Democrat governors, but very average at best against Republican governors. How about the fact that he had the most deaths of any state as governor on the China virus? Even Cuomo did better, number 4. Is that true?
He had the third most deaths of any state on the China virus. Even Cuomo did better. That is true. Yeah, true. Yep.
Why does everybody think Texas, Florida did so well then?
Florida's got a lot dead. But again, which virus? If you put everything into one category and say it's all deaths with COVID, and we know that, we know about the comorbidities. It's not a secret. The CDC tells us about the comorbidities. So COVID, lots of people died from COVID, but a lot more people died that had COVID and this other thing at the same time. More. That's what the CDC says. They said this many people died with just COVID. But if you have COVID and cancer and leukemia and this, yeah, then you're really going to die. Right? That's not controversial. Right? If you have just COVID, this many people died. People who also had a whole bunch of other afflictions and COVID, they really died. Right? So we know that. That's for sure. So it's a real virus and all that, but there were other things happening at the same time. I think that
was from Trump. It seemed realistic. Do you see this? Since February of 2022, only 133 followers. Robert David Steele's lawyer, who has blocked me on here, who nobody has ever heard of, has almost 5,000. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No. Especially since, for people who aren't aware, you had 120,000 subscribers on YouTube when your channel was taken away.
Look at that.
100, and that was almost 2 years ago. Yeah.
So
And
this guy, who nobody has ever heard of, right? That's what I mean. This needs to be an FTC investigation. What are they doing over there that Devin Nunes' personal attorney gets to almost 5,000 followers when he has virtually no social media footprint and is not producing original content every day? And Crowdsource the Truth, which he's litigating against, is held to 133 followers. John, I think there is some platform manipulation going on Truth Social, and I don't think Trump knows about it, but you know what? We're out of time. We got to make our transition here over to the sponsor-exclusive segment. People are going to be able to join us on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and Subscribestar and Patreon/crowdsourcethetruth. Thank you to everybody who has made this show possible. John, we were talking earlier in the week, maybe offline, about how, I posted this show we did years ago with Jake Morphonios. You and I have been at this for years. The people who have been trying to destroy what we're doing, for the most part, have fallen by the wayside, and we would not have been able to stay here if it wasn't for our generous viewer sponsors. So please join us for the sponsor exclusive segment coming up right now. We'll see everybody in just a few minutes.